everybody, James Shepard here with another edition of the Merchant Sales Insight. And this week I want to talk to you about competing with toast. Competing with toast. Now, at the beginning here, let's kind of identify how many merchants Toast actually has relative to how many exist. So data tells us that in the United States, there are about 1 million restaurants of all kinds of different types, from steakhouses to buffets to mom and pop shops, But there's about 1 million restaurants in the U.S. market. When Square went public in the fall of 2021, so it would have been, a little while ago, not quite a year ago. At that point, they had 48,000, I believe it was 48,000 restaurants. So that's about 5% market share, which is significant, but obviously that still leaves a lot of opportunity. So I think it's, we don't want to look at it and say, wow, Square's just taking over everything. They are gaining market share. They're growing. I'm sure they have a lot more than 48,000 now because they're growing rapidly. But, at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity outside of that. But I wanted to highlight Toast specifically because I think all of us see what Toast is doing in our markets. And when they come in, they're such a great example of a technology company that, has the integrated payment solution, and they just kind of take over everything. They take over the point of sale system and the payment processing, and they make money off of both. And they use that to offset their huge cost of acquisition from all the marketing that they're doing and the commission they're paying and the salaries they pay to their people and all of that. And I haven't looked at their financials lately, but I would imagine they're probably still either burning money or, on the path to profitability. So it's a very expensive proposition the way that they have their business model set up. So how do we compete with a company like Toast, and how do we compete with Toast specifically? Well, I actually partnered with Quantic for this episode, and I had a conversation about this with V, Bigian, his name, but it goes by V, who's the CEO over at Quantic, and just a really great guy, and they built such a cool solution that's processor agnostic. And so the way I look at Quantic, they are kind of like the antithesis or the opposite of the Toast model. So Toast says, we have no resellers, we have no payment processing partnerships at all. Everything is done in-house. They control the entire experience. And as a result, agents and ISOs cannot work with Toast in any capacity that I'm aware of. Whereas Quantic goes the total opposite direction. They only work through resellers. So they only work through ISOs and agents. They are processor agnostic, so they don't do their own processing. Instead, they have integrations with a lot of different processing companies. Their goal is focused entirely on the technology solution. And as a result of that, I think Quantic is one of the few companies that has a solution for restaurants that is comparable and really even better than Toast, meaning the actual technology itself, the functionality, the usability, the feature set, everything is fantastic that Quantic has. And so the first thing you need is you need a good solution, and you need a solution that's processor agnostic so that you could still make money on the credit card processing, obviously. Otherwise, why are you doing it? And I think it's important that you have a solution that can do cash discounting, dual pricing, that type of program. And Quantic has various options, which I won't get into in this video, but they have the ability to pass the cost of processing on to the consumer through various features and things as well. So that's the key. And I don't want to just gloss over that because I think it's easy for us to say, well, of course it's going to have all these same features that, Toast has. But really, it's very difficult to create these features. The online ordering is a big deal. SMS, marketing, streamlining the process of pickup and in-house, dealing with back of the house, front of the house. There's a lot of, moving parts that go into it. And frankly, I've seen a lot of point of sale systems that claim to be really good for restaurants that were not. And so Quantic is one that is really good. Then once you get past that, then you got to think about, how am I going to go to market with this? And I really want to talk to you in this video about reimagining capital allocation. It's one of the themes I've talked about so many times. I get more and more kind of forceful with my opinion about this because I don't understand why people in our industry seem to just not get this. It really drives me nuts. You have to understand that when you're going to go sell a restaurant, okay, that restaurant owner is strapped for cash. Cash flow is always an issue for restaurants as a general rule. And they're trying to put their cash into growing their business, into payroll, into hiring people, into marketing, all these other things they have to do. And so when you go in there pitching them, a lot of times they'll be open to switching to a different solution, especially when you offer to eliminate the processing fees or reduce them in some way. So there's going to have an opening there, different technology, the local support, which is a really big deal to restaurants. Then you say, okay, cool. Well, we can do all of that, and it's only going to cost you, $1,800 per station, and you need 3 stations. So after taxes and fees and everything, we're going to charge you about $6,000. For a lot of restaurants, that's a big part of the decision. That's a huge negative, okay? You need to rethink capital allocation. I put in the Merchant Sales Insight. I talked about my own experience with this. When I started selling point-of-sale systems, and I had my own ISO, we were doing probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 point-of-sale systems a month, I would say, something like that. And I realized even back then, this would have been like 7 years ago, I realized back then, we don't want to charge the merchant for the hardware for two reasons. Number one, it makes the sale harder. But number two, it's actually a bad deal for us because we can make way more money on the recurring revenue. So what I did was I packaged the point of sale and the software together, and I charged them a fee. And so it would be usually, like in today's dollars, when I do consulting for clients, it's going to be $100 to $200 per station per month. Somewhere in that range, depends on the software cost, the hardware cost, but, somewhere around $129, $139, $149, somewhere in that range per month per station. And you say, look, that's your all-in cost, Mr. and Miss Merchant. That's the hardware, and that's not just the hardware. That's the hardware, and we guarantee the hardware. It's our hardware that we're renting it to you. It's a fee that we give you. It's a service we provide. It's like hardware as a service is what I call it, hardware as a service that we provide. And so if something goes wrong, we fix it. If there's an issue, we take care of it. If you need to have it replaced, we replace it. So that's taking the hardware out of the picture. You don't have to worry about that at all. That's number one. And then number two, it also is the software. So we bundle those together. That is my favorite way to compete against companies like Toast, is because if you can eliminate that upfront cost, number one, again, it's going to be a lot easier to make the sale, but also you're going to find that the $1,800 that you got to come up with, and in your case, maybe less because you can get a wholesale rate on it, is nothing compared to the long-term revenue that you're going to get. So how do you get this money, right? Well, let me give you a couple of ideas. Okay, the way I did it is I went to my ISO. And I said, look, we're both going to benefit from this in a big way. I'm going to bring you a lot of great merchant accounts, but in exchange, I need to be able to get, $1,800 per station in order to cover my hardware cost. So I said, here's what let's do. When I bring you one of these deals, you front me the $1,800 and you keep half of my residuals until it's paid back, right? And so, we did it at, a reasonable interest rate. So they made some interest on their money, which I think is fair. They're going to provide the capital. They should get some interest on it. But they also got residual on these accounts, right? Because we were splitting the residuals up, of course. So that works for everybody. So start there and see if you can get a good deal in that way. Because especially if you have residuals already, some of you have 10, 20, 30,000 a month in residual, your ISO would be glad to loan you money against that as collateral, right? And just work out something that's going to be cash flow neutral for you so your residuals can continue to grow. They just won't grow as quickly for a few years while you pay this money back. But then once the money is paid back, well, now you're keeping all of this profit that you have on the equipment and you charge it forever. I didn't do it as a lease or anything. I did it as like an ongoing hardware as a service. And people would say, well, wait a minute. What if I wanted like a 3-year deal? And I'm like, well, in 3 years, what's going to happen to your hardware? And they're like, well, I'm going to probably need to replace it. Exactly. I said, so with this, this is the cost. I take care of the hardware. I make sure it always works good. So that's why I presented it. So think about that. That I think is a big one. There's so many other things I could talk about. And of course I have it at the, go to ccsalespro.com/insights, ccsalespro.com/insights. You can download the actual document there, take a look at the, listen to the full audio version and everything. But competing with Toast, I think number one is you got to have the right solution to compete with Toast. And then number two, the last thing I'll tell you is you just have to understand restaurant issues right now. Restaurants are dealing with labor shortages. They're dealing with issues where they need to move to omni-channel, where they can do online ordering, they can do takeout, all these things. And, there's just so many things squeezing their margins, so many pressures for them to change. What they need is a professional to help them that understands these issues, that's going to work with them to give them what they need. So take some time right now. Go to Quantic. They have a fantastic solution. You're going to love it. Get Quantic. So it's GETQUANTIC. GetQuantic.com. Go to getquantic.com and check it out. And let's get out there and start competing with Toast and winning these restaurant accounts. My name is James Shepard. Thanks for watching this video.